Good morning, everyone. It's very, very nice to see you all here. I have this very special pleasure and opportunity to welcome you to the event. My name is Stefan Osthaus. I'm one of the speakers, so you'll see a little bit of me throughout the next 2 days. But since there will be an official welcome to the conference later on in the general session, let's kick off our pre-conference event here. And for that, I'm very, very happy to introduce Doug Leather. Doug is a leading expert and thought leader in customer management. And he works with blue chip companies around the world. He's a local from Johannesburg, but when he comes into his clients' companies, he makes sure people and the organization start to think and act differently. And they start to understand what customer asset management is. And if you also want to understand what this is, pay close attention to Doug.
Thanks, Stefan. Thank you. Thanks so much. Great. Well, good morning, everyone. Great to be with you here. We're here really to talk about the hidden wealth of clients and consumers. And I want to give you a little bit of context just to start off with. Our world is undergoing rapid transformation in the economic, political, social, technological, and regulatory arenas. New technologies relentlessly hurtle into our lives. Ideas and practices travel around the world at internet speed, and social media enables individuals to self-organize and reorganize in ways unimaginable just a few short years ago. In this tide of change and upheaval, customers are stepping into their power and making demands of business the likes of which have never been seen before. Building sustainable competitive advantage, relevance, and resilience requires the capability to innovate the existing business model, with the customer central to the design. Yet all too often, our thinking and our way of work are unable to deal with the transformation required, and our design process fails to cater for the criticality and complexity of customer centricity. Business model innovation through the lens of the customer rather than through the lens of the current business model is a must-have strategic imperative for the leaders of tomorrow. Business model innovation through the lens of the customer. I mean, think about it. Customer centricity is a way of being, isn't it? It's an organization that kind of gets it. It's part of the DNA. It's built in and it's part of the genetic code, and it's that genetic code that determines the characteristics and behavior of the organization. Customer centricity refers to an organization designed or redesigned, as the case may be, around the principles of humanity, around the principles of empathy, around the principles of authenticity, designed around the principles of the convergence, if you will, between profitability and customer advocacy. So a customer-centric organization seeks to maximize the value of the stakeholder universe rather than merely the value of the shareholder or the stakeholder. Customer centricity is about an organizational operating model that enables an organization to design and to deliver a unique and distinctive customer experience in order to acquire, retain, develop, targeted customers efficiently. We know that relationships that work are based on mutual interests. Relationships that fail are based on selfish interests. It's so screamingly obvious. I mean, business, if we think about it, is a team sport. And success is best when it's shared. Best when it's shared across and between the stakeholder universe. And I'd like to refer to a reality that I call the customer management illusion. There are many numbers of research studies that prove a radical misalignment between organizations' perception of how customer-centric they are compared to the customer's perspective of how customer-centric that organization is. And I refer to a study or a survey by the CMO Council, the Chief Marketing Officer Council, in which in excess of 50% of chief executives believed their organizations were extremely customer-centric. Extremely customer-centric. I mean, on a scale of 0% to 100%, what is extreme? 90% plus? Or less than 1/10 of customers agreed. In an Accenture study, 75% of chief executives believed their organizations were customer-centric, as distinct from extremely customer-centric, but believed their organizations were customer-centric. 59% of their customers indicated that they were somewhat to extremely dissatisfied with customer service. And that's an interesting point, because customer service is not customer centricity. Customer service is not customer management. Customer service is not customer experience. Customer service is but one small attribute of the customer-centric model. Now, operationalizing customer-centric business is an incredibly complex task. I mean, we work with organizations to facilitate their customer-centric transformation in order to develop competitive advantage and superior business performance. And one of the steps when we work with organizations is to assess the current customer management capability of organizations. Any guesses on the average customer centricity capability score derived from almost 2,000 deep dive assessments that we've done around the world across multiple industries? Any guess? Give me on a scale of 0% to 100%. Any guess as to the average? 20%. Any others? 40. Why so low?
Because of what you just said, people in the companies think they're customer-centric, but the customers don't.
Okay.
It's an illusion.
Well, you're pretty close. I mean, somewhere in the middle. The average score is 37%. The lowest score that we've achieved on our database is 15%. I was involved with the work. It was a telco operator on the west coast of Africa. The highest score ever achieved is 75%. An insurance company, part of the Royal & Sun Alliance Group, operating out of Newfoundland in Canada. So my job here today really is as provocateur. I mean, I'm here to be a pebble in your shoe. I'm here to be the pinprick that kind of forces you to take notice. I'm here to encourage you to think differently about business assets, to think differently as to where the real value of your organization lies. I'm here to reinforce that we can no longer view value in business from the single dimension of financial benefit. And I'm also here to argue that the traditional financial reporting frameworks are inadequate when we need to value business assets, recognizing that assets are both tangible and intangible. So whilst financial and physical assets are currently measured and monitored very accurately within organizations, intangible assets aren't. And intangible assets are increasingly representing a far higher percentage of organizational value. And to kind of bundle these into this descriptive term called goodwill is no longer enough. Now, it's been suggested that there are three kinds of intangible assets. Number one, competency-centered assets. And here we're talking about things like employee intellect, the number of years experience that our professionals have in a specific area. Competency-enhancing customers, working with customers who encourage us to get out of our mental models, co-creating with customers, forcing some level of innovation in terms of our product and our service offerings. Value add per employee, turnover of professional staff, diversity. The second kind of intangible asset that we talk about is the internal capabilities relating to intangible assets. Things like patents, things like concepts, business models, computer and administrative systems, the ability to implement and to continually improve processes, the ability to introduce new products, a high percentage of new products each and every year, generating a significant portion of our revenue and our profitability, culture, spirit. And then we've got the external capabilities relating to intangible assets. The ability of an organization to grow organically. The ability of an organization to, beg your pardon, I've got warning messages come jumping up on my screen. The ability of an organization to retain its customers. The ability of an organization to be relevant and sell more to customers. Customer relationships, brand equity, and knowledge of customers. These kinds of scenarios. So, having a look at what I'm saying in context, I then want to refer you to a research study conducted specifically to determine where the real value of an organization lies. By analyzing and classifying 11 key asset groupings, if I can refer to them as such. So think about it. For purposes of business valuation, for purposes of value driver understanding, for purposes of business and resource management, for purposes of strategy inputs, for purposes of competitive advantage and competitive differentiation, surely we've got to take a broader base view of the assets within our organization, beyond purely the physical and the financial assets. Would you guys agree that the traditional financial reporting frameworks that we have are inadequate? Would anybody disagree with that statement? Okay, we're all on the same path. So, the research sample of the study was asked to rate or to rank these 11 areas of, let me call them capital, listed alphabetically here, in terms of their strategic and their financial importance, in consideration of their impact on sustainable business performance and competitiveness. And the results were really interesting. The only assets that we currently measure and monitor accurately, namely the financial and physical assets, were not rated highly at all in terms of their contribution to sustainable performance and competitiveness. We see them rated down here as number 9 and 11 in both areas. Intellectual property, which is essentially providing the legal protection of our competitive differentiation, was the number 1 strategic contributor, followed closely by customers. Customers were the number 1 financial contributor. Customer capital. I mean, think about it. That's where the majority, if not all, of our revenue stream comes from. So when we start understanding the importance of a customer or the client asset, we find ourselves in a new playing field where a new game plan is needed. And I want to add 3 further realities. Think for a moment about all of our stakeholders. Now, in a modern enterprise, there's 5 major types of stakeholders. There's society, there's partners, there's investors, there's customers, and there's employees. So let me ask you a question. Which one of those stakeholders, whom if we maximize the return thereof, would benefit each and every stakeholder in that stakeholder universe? Which of those stakeholders would have a positive impact on all the stakeholders if we were to maximize the return thereof? Employees. We've got employees, we've got customers. Any others? And I think the employee element is very close to that. But you can maximize the return on the employee stakeholder and not necessarily have an impact on everybody else. It's the closest correlation. At the end of the day, it's actually the customer. And that means we need to use customer centricity as a catalyst for stakeholder universe benefit. Let me repeat that. We need to use customer centricity as the catalyst for stakeholder universe benefit. And I say that because without being able to propagate the supply-demand chain across the organization, we're unable to support the other stakeholders, particularly the investor community. And remember that becoming customer-centric is all about differentiation. Becoming customer-centric allows you to stand head and shoulders above the crowd in the eyes of your customers, as well as in terms of your business results. Number 2, would you agree that customers create almost 100% of the value for your business? So they create value for us in each financial quarter by buying our products and paying for our services. But they also create value in another way, and we refer to that value as lifetime value. And lifetime value is based upon their intention to pay us money in the future, to continue buying our products, and to continue utilizing our services. Lifetime value goes up and it goes down in exactly the same way that a share portfolio goes up and down. And it may reduce as a result of a poor service interaction. It may reduce as a result of a competitor launching a far more compelling value proposition to us. But whatever causes it to reduce is bad news at the end of the day. Businesses do not report that reduction in value to their shareholders. They're not customer-centric organizations. Invariably, they don't even know and understand themselves the reduction in value that's taking place. And it's akin to an organization's share price losing value as a result of that organization reporting lower earnings. And number 3, let me ask you what shareholders and investors really want. Besides a consistently increasing share price that exceeds inflation by a factor of 397%. Shareholders and investors want proof that the leadership of an organization is able to grow the business in the old-fashioned way. In other words, organically. They want proof and confidence that the business has figured out how to acquire new customers, how to grow those customers, how to get them bigger, how to keep them coming back to the organization, how to get them to buy more from us. Because in that way, the organization is able to demonstrate value to customers, which means it's able to demonstrate value to shareholders at the same time. So surely our goal is to maximize the return of each and every single customer and prospect that we have. We've spoken about the fact that it's the customers that create value. Customers are the most unique, non-replicable, measurable, valuable asset that most organizations have. And guess what else? Customers are scarce. They're a scarce resource, and they're a scarce resource because they have the power to choose. What would you say is the biggest limitation on company growth? Please don't bowl me over with your interactivity this morning. I know it's early.
Customer acquisition and customer spend.
Acquisition and spend, customers, right? Anything else? I mean, bang on the button. It is customers. Financial resource is not unlimited. The ability to expand our businesses is not unlimited. Customers are an incredibly scarce resource. And that acknowledgement and understanding that customers sit at the very heart of that limitation of growth has a massive impact, should have a massive impact on the decisions that we make. So if customers are the most important asset? Who is managing that most important asset in your organization? How is that asset being managed? What operational framework or approach or methodology or business model are you using to optimize the value of that asset? Who within your organization understands the value of that asset today? Who within the organization understands the value of that asset tomorrow? Who's working out how to keep these customers? And who's working out how those customers are going to help us grow our business? And the question's got to be, well, how do we transform our business? What approach do we need to take in order to build and operationalize customer centricity? And at the outset, we've got to view customer centricity as a system, as a combination of interdependent capabilities and practices with very well understood and well-defined foundational competencies and capabilities, enabling competencies and capabilities, and execution capabilities and competencies. So think about it from a foundational level. We need enlightened leadership. We need leadership who gets the fact that the greatest opportunity lies in new business models, finding new ways to create value, to deliver value, and to capture value. And in order to do that, we need a culture that's driven around humanity, empathy, authenticity, all of those good things that we've spoken about, and that the behavior is driven by the culture, not driven by a rule book. Clearly, we need this technology and we need systems that enable us as an organization to take our message to market. We need the capability for data management and business intelligence in order to feed the insight that helps us with our planning. We need a brand promise that is related to a mission that matters, something that's going to make a difference to the world. We need to be able to develop relevant propositions. We need then to be able to take those propositions to market through the appropriate channels, utilizing the media of choice. We need to be able to design and deliver this unique, distinctive customer experience that differentiates ourselves in the market. As a business, we've got to be agile, so our competitors don't eat our lunch. And clearly, if we're looking at the world through a customer management lens, we need to at least add a couple of appropriate measures so we can understand the value that the customers are driving out. And clearly, those foundational competencies, those enabling competencies allow us as an organization to be a whole lot more effective in managing the customer value management drivers. And there are only 4 of those, ladies and gents. Think about it. How do you extract value from your customer asset? You can only do that by retaining the customers that you want to retain, by acquiring new kinds of customers that hopefully in the future are going to be delivering profitability and value to you. You can only do that by being relevant, producing more products, producing more services, and selling them, selling more of them to your existing customers. And you can only do that with insight such that you're able to deploy your resources in a far more effective way in understanding cost to serve and therefore understanding return on investment as a result of the spend that you have across that customer base. So, as we talk about this transformational journey, we've got to be crystal clear, as with any journey, we've got to be crystal clear as to our point of departure. As a business, we need to have an objective, quantified, externally benchmarked understanding of the current organizational capability to maximize profit. Does it make sense? Equally important is the need for us to be crystal clear as to the desired level of customer management capability that we're looking for. You see, customer centricity is not a one-size-fits-all. What's customer centricity for Hollard is not necessarily the same as customer centricity for Transnet, is not necessarily the same as customer centricity for a company like Amazon.com. And in defining the nature of customer centricity, we've got to stimulate, we've got to structure, we've got to drive the thinking of senior stakeholders within the business to define the nature of customer centricity that they are looking for. Don't just throw the term out there. What does customer centricity mean to your organization? What do you expect to get as a result of investing both effort and money in building customer-centric capability? Now, most organizations, I'm not saying all of them, most organizations today have as one of their top 5 focus areas, strategic themes, whatever it is that you want to call it, some kind of customer imperative. Maybe it's customer focus, maybe it's customer centricity, maybe it's customer experience, maybe it's customer is king, maybe it's CRM, whatever it might be. So when we start thinking about the ability to define the nature of customer centricity, we've got to start thinking about the gap that exists between that imperative to which I refer, one of those top 5 focus areas, and very importantly, the detailed plans needed to change systems and to change processes and to change behaviors. So I want to take you back to the systemic nature of customer centricity that I spoke about earlier. As an organization, as you consider the nature of customer centricity to which you aspire, it's critically important to recognize that there are a broad range, going back to the system stuff, there are a broad range of strategic dimensions or strategic influences that will have an impact on the design and delivery of your customer experience. So what do I mean by that? There are 20 strategic dimensions that are holistic. They're all embracing of an organization on the screen. So let's take a look at core financial focus. There's 2 extremes with core financial focus. The organization's either driven by profitability or it's driven by revenue. 2 extremes. Most organizations clearly are driven by profit. However, think about the number of sales forces that are measured and driven by revenue. That's going to have an impact, guys, on the kind of experience you design and you deliver. Let's pick on timescales demanded for return on investment. Either we're an organization that's looking at long-term value creation on the one extreme, or we're an organization that's looking for a short-term value requirement. That's going to have an impact on how you design and deliver your customer experience. Let's talk about customer experience. As a business, are we looking to create a differentiated experience? We're treating different customers differently. Invariably, we're going to be treating higher value customers better than other customers. Or is it our strategy to treat everybody the same? I'm not saying one's wrong and one's right. I'm just looking at the 2 extremes. Whatever it is that you choose is going to have an impact on how you design and how you deliver the experience and how you structure your organization. What about level of satisfaction? Are you a business that's looking to delight and wow customers at each and every opportunity? Can you sustain that? Or are you an organization that's looking to do just enough to ensure repurchase? Man, that's going to have an impact on how you design and deliver your customer experience. And let's jump right down to the bottom here. Visibility of customer-related performance. As an organization, if you're rolling out this customer-centric business model and you're introducing new sets of measures that are customer-related, are you making sure that everybody in your organization understands that? Are you making sure that everybody in your organization understands the value of the new customers that we've acquired this year? Is everybody understanding the value, revenue, and profitability that we are losing as a result of the customers that have churned? Does everybody within your organization understand the increased revenue and profitability brought about by existing customers using more of our stuff? Does everybody understand the improved profitability as a result of understanding cost to serve and allocating our limited resources more effectively at those customer segments or customer groupings who have a higher propensity to take up the offer and have a higher propensity to spend with us? So when we think about the desired capability, we've got to think about creating targeted state statements across all the components of a business operating model. You with me? So let's talk a little about value uplift and business case. we know well where we are, we know where we want to go, and we all intuitively understand that a customer-centric business model is the way to go, because we know that customer-centric business model innovation unlocks huge opportunity and allows us to create, deliver, and capture value. But if we can't deliver fair and sustainable financial returns, even the most enlightened leadership team is not going to remain committed to the customer-centric transformational journey, are they? And what happens in those worlds, generally, at the first time of profit pressure, the organization digresses into a slash and burn cost-cutting initiative. All of a sudden starts trying to sell at every single opportunity. And any other bunch of stupid activities and initiatives that destroy value, destroy credibility, destroy trust, destroy reputation. So, when we start considering business performance through the lens of a customer-centric business model, you've got to start introducing measures that underpin the drivers of customer value to which I referred earlier. So for your company, in your industry, what are the core measures, the top 2 or 3 measures that represent the value associated with each of those value drivers? So in the example that I have on the screen here, retention, this is a sanitized version obviously, retention is measured by lost customers and customers going dormant. Pragmatic, relevant, measurable metrics. From an efficiency perspective, cost to acquire, cost to serve, cost of failure. And we analyze this information according to some form of segmentation. But this is quite a complicated form of segmentation. It may simply be very high value, medium value, low value. Okay. But we've got to capture the current state, the current business performance. From an acquisition perspective, number of new customers per year, activation rate, customers that we've won back. We look at winning back customers as part of acquisition because they may have been with us, but then they left. So when we get them back, it's a new acquisition. And then you think about the development side of it, the penetration, number of products per customer, average sale value per customer, average number of purchases per year. So this initial phase of value uplift and business case links directly to your current customer management capability that I spoke about earlier. Does that make sense? This is how capable we are. This is what our performance is about. What we have got to understand, what you need to understand, is what is the potential financial uplift that you would generate if today you had the desired capabilities that you've defined in place. Because you'll be significantly more efficient. You'll be significantly more able to adopt a varied range of customer strategies to improve that value. So, excuse the busyness of the slide, but if you go back to the previous slide, you'll see all of the current performance measures. So if we were incrementally more capable, we would be much better at retention. We would be much better at acquisition. We would be much better at development. We would be much better at managing cost to serve. And when we start plotting and modeling that uplift, we can bring out some significant value enhancement across the organization. Adding cost data to something like this gives you a full-blown return on investment argument for any business case. Okay, so deep understanding, current customer management capability, good understanding of where we want to go, clear understanding of the value uplift. Well, with those levels of understanding, as a business, we're in a position then to roll out a transformational program that's based on solid insight, solid value uplift. And with the approach of systems thinking, we're able to prioritize those areas and those linkages to help us move across that value chain of customer-centric capability development. Now, there's a strong, strong, strong correlation between customer management capability and business performance. Companies can generally expect a 400% ROI from well-managed customer management programs. The benefit and payback period varies greatly depending on the maturity of the organization and, of course, depending on the investment that's made. lower quartile or lower performing organizations have got to take a little more risk. Generally are going to have to make a little more of an investment and are not going to see the returns generated as quickly as organizations that are a little more mature. As I move or as I approach the end of the session, I want to talk to you about customer-related measures that are an incredibly important part of customer-centric transformation. I'm extremely cynical of the belief that one or two metrics can allow us to develop and drive strategy and to optimize tactical initiatives across the organization. And I'm a firm believer that we've got to have a blend of leading versus lagging indicators. So the very top of this triangle, we're talking about a measure that refers to and relates to customer management capability of the organization as it stands today. Guys, there's no customer insight brought into that metric. What's interrogated is what capabilities the organization has, how the organization understands its customer base, and what the organization is doing as a result of all of the research and information and insight that it's collecting. That refers to the process that I've taken you through. Current organizational capability, we've got a target in terms of where we're going, and we are measuring that steady improvement, hopefully, across that journey. And we're able to benchmark our capabilities against best in class globally. Because remember, you and I set our expectations as a result of certain experiences we have. My customer experiences are ideally set by organizations like Disney and Emirates Airlines, as an example. So why should I come back and reduce my expectations because I'm dealing with my insurance company or my telco operator or my bank or my lawyer? Not at all. And as an organization, we've got to recognize that fact. We can't compare ourselves against our industry because our industry is not necessarily best in class. So we have this as a leading indicator. And in certain cases, let me tell you, and I've experienced it, you can have the leading indicator showing an improvement, but all of this other stuff is showing a decline. And that's possible because all of this other stuff is more lagging oriented. It's a result of something that's broken in the system today that we need to fix. It's a kind of tactical initiative. Anyway, I digress. So as we move down from leading to lagging, how many of you are familiar with the South African Consumer Satisfaction Index? Very few, very few. I'd encourage you to take a look at it. It's a measure that is a national economic indicator of customer satisfaction in the quality of products and services available to households. So clearly, if you're in a business-to-business world, you need another kind of customer satisfaction survey at that level. But why I like it, it's built and based on the same principles as the American Consumer Satisfaction Index, which has a direct correlation to economic output. The other measure that we introduced there is employee satisfaction. You can never be customer-centric unless you're employee-centric. So think about that. And then we move down to a whole lot of other measures that many of you are familiar with. And I know certainly of technologies available, platforms available in the voice of the customer space that kind of embraces all of these things. So I'm not saying you've got to have all four of these. It depends on the consistency, the robustness of the measures that you have. So be it voice of the customer, be it NPS as a loyalty measure, be it a different version of customer satisfaction, that's fine. The other metric that I'm happy to see is gaining a lot of traction is customer effort score. How difficult is it to do business with your organization? And customer effort's viewed in four ways. It's about cognitive effort. I've got to read through 17 pages of terms and conditions. You're not making things simple for me. It's about time effort. How long does it take me to transact with you? How long do I have to hold on this damn phone before you answer it? Then you get physical effort, invariably brought about as a result of huge frustration with time effort because you now get in your car and drive across to Jorrison Street to go and talk to one of our highly efficient government departments. And then we get the emotional effort, the level of frustration that we have in trying to deal with the business, the balance between positive and negative energy.